We are starting here with a grown out slice and smudge, and we're going to transform this into a more rooted, blended out look so that it grows out better. So I'm going in with a 5N, which is just a little bit darker than her natural color, and I'm using Zero Lift. I did add a little bit of yellow additive to this as a filler, so I'm going in with Pravana, just so you know the brand that I'm using, and I'm using Zero Lift, which is going to actually transform this permanent color into a demi-permanent color. And again, I added just a drop of yellow additive. So I am going in and I have my two subsections in the back, and I'm taking small diagonal sections, being very neat because it is much darker than the blonde on her head. So I definitely don't want to be messy with that or loose with that. Make sure you're being very, very neat and just concentrating on the sections ahead. So I'm just taking little diagonal sections and painting down about 1/2 inch. As I work my way down the subsection, I am transitioning into horizontal, and then I am going in diagonally in the opposite direction, again being very careful, and I'm repeating that on the opposite side. Something that I want you to keep in mind here as I'm working in the front section is that I am going to work on diagonals, bringing down about 1/2 inch, and I am leaving out the pieces in the front that are blonde. I do not want to tap those at all. I will at the end, but I don't want to do that right now because I still want to keep the brightness up in the front, but I want the rest of it to look more lived in. So I'm not going to go right up and do that. Now I've put a piece of foil here, and the only reason why I have that piece of foil there is so that when I am painting the opposite side, I am not getting, it basically is preventing me from getting the darker color onto spots that it shouldn't be. So I am just doing basically like a color retouch is the way that you would apply this, and you're going to work your way around the entire head. Again, you're avoiding the sections in the front. Those are the money pieces, so we want, or the face frame, so we want them to be really nice and bright, and we don't want to paint the dark color onto that quite yet. Now for the fun part, I'm using the same formula, and I am going to work my way around the head on diagonals, taking chunky, loose weaves. So basically I've got a little weave here. I'm going to take my foil and I'm going to feather it down, but in this particular circumstance we don't want too much dimension throughout, just kind of in that root area. So I'm only dragging that down about a couple of inches, and I'm just feathering it. And I'm going to do this all over the head. And I am leaving about 1/2 inch out in between each chunky weave. Sorry, I'm standing in front of the camera. I'm really trying not to, but I see I even looked back to make sure that I wasn't standing in front of it. But yeah, here we are. So again, I'm bringing it down about 3 inches and just really feathering it down, and there will be better views than this, I promise. And when I feather it down, I'm sort of working in this like triangular shape. So you don't want to just go straight down. You want it to kind of create a shape that like how it would naturally grow out, basically. So that's why I'm working on diagonals, and I will always pull down the low light the most in as I get toward the end of the section. So the further away from the face I get, basically the lower down I pull. Let me see if you could see it a little bit better here. So I'm going in and I'm just gently feathering down, and as you can see, I'm going to go down a little bit more as I get toward the end of the foil. So some of them I'm bringing down about 3 inches, some of them 2 inches. And I'm just going to work my way around the head that way. And this is really where you're going to get the best view. So here I've got my chunky weave. And I'm going in with my foil. I'm actually using a highlighting board here. It's just going to make it a little bit easier. So I'm going to go in and just feather down gently. Now in the back I'm taking my wide sections just like I do for the slice and smudge technique, and here I want to dip down that color a little bit more in the center. So when I'm working in the back I want to just pull down the most in the center of the weave, but that's coming down about 3 inches, and then on either side it's about 2 inches. So I got my thick foil, I'm going in, feathering down, but I'm feathering down the most in the center of the foil. See how I go back in and do that? So I'm creating sort of an upside down triangle with my weaves in the back. So now I am just going in with my Pravana Express tone in Pearl. I want to create this really nice sort of glowy, icy kind of color. And I'm just combing that through with my Olivia Garden eye blend brush. And I will let that process for 5 minutes. These work really quickly, so keep an eye on it. And as you can see, this is our finished result. It is so beautiful. It's nice and lived in. I'm lifting it up so that you can see what we've created. And we left the brightness in the front, so I'm going to spin her around now so that you could see that.